In June of 2023, five men, Hamish Harding, Paul Henry Nargeolet, Shahzada Dawood, Suleiman Dawood, and Stockton Rush, attempted an expedition to visit the gravesite of the Titanic nearly 4,000 meters below the ocean's surface. The submersible carrying them, the Oceangate Titan, experienced a catastrophic implosion around 3,300 meters, killing all five men instantly. We covered the Titan implosion in an episode last year, but now, following 2 weeks of hearings in the United States, we're circling back around to see what else we've learned about Oceangate and Stockton Rush. Welcome back to Respect the Dead, the podcast where we don't again.
Sweaty, it's no surprise that everybody celebrated your demise, and now worms are eating your eyes. So don't you worry your rotten head as you sleep in your sodden bed. It's time to respect the dead. It's time to respect the dead. It's time to respect the dead.
Hey, I'm
I'm so
Hoots.
excited. I'm Kaylin.
I'm so excited.
Conrad.
Hello, I'm so excited. I'm a Hoots.
Okay, sicko with the dad jokes.
Yeah,
Hold
it
on,
felt
I'm,
gross
I'm,
coming out of my mouth.
it looked gross. No, there's gonna be a little ASMR. I need to open my drink.
Mm.
That's for all you
Is that a
sickos in the
DP?
audience. Yeah, it
Is it
is.
nice?
It's a DP, but it's a tiny bottle, and I'm covering the branding because I don't know who I'm supposed to be boycotting. But
I think
like
all of them,
probably every
right?
like
Probably all of
company.
them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
all of the companies and
Yeah.
all of the corporations.
We're all going to hell because we've all bought things.
Yes.
So we're checking back in with Oceangate and Stockton Rush following two
Okay,
weeks
how's
of
it
hearings.
Checking back in feels weird because they are like scum at the bottom of an ocean right now. It's
Yeah,
like
how's he doing?
circling back, just seeing how you're doing.
How you feeling, buddy?
Also, this is the first time on like Respect the Dead or ever on a video on the internet that my nails aren't done.
Ooh, let's
Nobody
see those bald nails.
nobody judge me.
They look
I
healthy
just
though. Ew, mine are
it's actually
dirty.
it's actually sick how healthy my nails are given that they've had polish on them for the last like 6 years without like a full day's
They should be
rest.
yellow.
No, they're just beautiful and clean. But I let a straight woman do my nails, and then I got her cooties, and now one of my nails is infected. So I'm trying to let them breathe.
Ew.
And I
Ew.
know she was straight because she asked where I was going that weekend, and I said to see Ethel Kane and Chapel Roan, and she was like, "Oh, I don't like. Oh, is that a band? I don't know them."
Oh, is
Like,
that a band? Ethel Kane and Chaperone? I wish.
no, they're my friends. I thought you just might recognize their names. You stupid fuck. Okay, so let's get into this.
Hmm.
There's a bunch of men. They died at the bottom of the ocean. Was there any women?
Uh-huh. No women. Yeah. No women and no
Sexism
one
saves
in
lives.
between. Yeah, it's so true. That's why we're allowed to laugh.
Right. If a woman dies
Men,
at the bottom of the ocean, it's actually
that's
really
a
fucked up.
tragedy. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so just as a heads up, this episode is going to include a re-release of our full episode on the Titan implosion from last year. So if you missed it the first time around, or like if you're one of our newer listeners, or you just want to revisit it, just keep listening.
I'm sorry to be so off topic, but I'm just sending you a photo really quickly because the top half of your body is over the bottom half of my screensaver, which is Trixie Mattel.
Okay, please drop this
I
into the drive. Davi, keep this in. Put this in.
sorry. I was
Wait,
just
I
like
gotta
the
make
way
it
you
so
were
that my
moving your little arms around.
do my
Okay,
arms match up right now?
move them a bit farther apart,
This podcast is obnoxious.
more farther apart. This is fucking insane. Okay. It's just I couldn't stop laughing and I needed to
Oh,
say something about it
oh,
because it would've looked really weird because 'cause you're not, like, saying anything particularly funny.
gorgeous. I
Okay,
love it.
go on.
Okay. So, we're re-releasing at the end of this episode, our episode from last year. You're gonna hear a third voice in the old episode. That's our old co-host, Mandy. You can go subscribe to her YouTube channel at
Mainly Mandy.
youtube.com/mainlymandy. Yes. And that's mainly spelled like the state of Maine. And you know
Yes.
what? I'm also gonna just like link it in the description.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
To just make it easier for everyone. So the updates section of this episode is going to be a little bit fractured, not really a clean narrative, and obviously we're recording this before any legal decisions have been made regarding this case. There are several investigations and inquiries ongoing into the Titan disaster in both the US and Canada, because it was US and Canadian governmental agencies that were deployed in the search and rescue mission that eventually became a recovery
Right.
mission. And there are additional inquiries and investigations being led by France and the UK. And a final report is set to be issued by the International Marine Organization at some undetermined time. These investigations are to establish exactly what happened, as well as to determine who is at fault, if the governmental agencies who responded to the emergency did so adequately, if any maritime reforms need to be made, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And they're incredibly reminiscent of the hearings and inquiries that came out of the original Titanic disaster in the early 20th century.
I love the idea of them being like, "Do we need to stop people from going to the bottom of the sea?"
Do we need to make
Or
some
do
new
we need to
maritime laws?
say, "If you go to the bottom of the sea, we are not coming after you"? Because, like, I feel like it's probably the second one, right? Okay, why are we letting these bitches go to the bottom of the sea, to the top of space? Like, stay where you are. You have, like, 8 properties on this planet. Go hang out in one of those.
I think it's totally fine if you wanna go to the bottom of the sea or space, but I do kinda think that, like, if you get stuck, you're on your fucking own.
Yeah, my
Like,
tax dollars
for real.
are not going to fish someone out of the bottom of the sea.
Yeah. Sorry, bestie, but
Yeah.
you should have thought of that before you sealed yourself up in a little pill and got swallowed by the ocean. The US hearings over the last 2 weeks have been delving into the business practices of Oceangate itself and of Stockton Rush and determining cause and liability. The US Coast Guard has released images and video footage of the wreckage found at the bottom of the ocean last June. And while the cause of the implosion is still yet to be determined, it appears that Titan's carbon fiber hull suffered catastrophic delamination. Essentially,
I'll say.
it it was constructed of it wasn't like one layer, it was 5 one-inch layers of carbon fiber that were
1
adhered together
inch.
with what amounts to industrial strength glue, and in several of the pieces of the wreckage your smile is fucking insane.
I just
You're
wanna
looking
see
at what
what
an inch is? Yeah,
I
look at
wanna
what an
see.
inch is. An inch. So
This is
5 of
so
those.
no, no,
Yeah,
like,
5
this is 5
inches.
inches.
That's 5 inches.
This is
That's
what
the
separated
wall
them from the sea.
from the ocean, yes. With, like, maybe a few more millimeters of glue, you know, because there's glue
Okay,
between each one-inch layer.
we'll even say 6, which
We'll
is
even say 6.
perfectly reasonable.
Yes.
This is insane. The idea
Well,
that what
I
was
think 6
keeping them
inches is
from the
plenty.
the what keeping them from the ocean, uh, if the thing keeping you from the ocean could comfortably sit inside my mouth,
Hmm.
that is an issue. Like, I wouldn't even there wouldn't even be, like, the thought of gagging at this point. Like, that's insane.
I would
Like,
gag.
no,
I would gag on 5.
I'm a professional.
So, in several of the pieces of the wreckage, it appears that those carbon fiber layers came apart where it's glued. So, I'm gonna share a video of the
Glue?
wreckage. Yeah, like,
Isn't this
they
something
were
you
adhered.
weld?
They were adhered with,
Like,
like, basically it was an adhesive. It was like an industrial strength adhesive, but it was an adhesive layer between each of the 5 layers. So they were
mhm.
glued. They were super glued. They were super, super glued.
This, like, fucking paper mache pill that they went down in.
It basically is. It's like those, those, like, competitions where you build your own go-kart, those, like, go-kart derbies. It's like
Yes, from The
that.
Simpsons.
Yeah. So I'm gonna share a video of the wreckage. It's only about 2 minutes long, so we're gonna watch the whole thing, but, we'll have Davi edit it down for time. And it is starting, like, about 13 seconds in. Oh, it's so fucked up.
Oh, I don't know, it's kinda cute. It looks like a crash landed spaceship. It was so small. They're really crammed up in there. There's so much all over the place. Oh, what's that? Is that their secret shame toilet that they kept behind the curtain?
No, I think the shame toilet is gone for good. I think the shame
Who's
toilet is a
who's
million
filming
pieces.
this? Is this just a
Um,
robot?
I think so. I think it's just a robot
Okay.
because I think they sent down unmanned submersibles to
It
search
would have been
for it.
so funny if they sent a manned submersible and it was, like, totally fine. No issues detected.
Well, people have been down there before and it's been totally
I
fine
know.
because they've been in good submersibles.
This thing looks like a piece of shit, though, the thing that's recording them. Look at all these, like, hooks and this little, like these little rope baubles, like, this thing, like, literally, if this piece of fucking garbage made it all the way down and these billionaires couldn't make it down in theirs, that's so embarrassing. Okay, I watched it. I loved it.
Okay.
I loved seeing the carnage at the bottom of the ocean, and apparently it's super bright down there.
I
Like,
think they have lights. I think they have
who
professional
they?
recording
Who's they?
equipment. The government agencies with the submersibles.
Oh, okay. I was
I
like,
do love
"Ooh, new conspiracy unlocked."
they.
At the bottom of the sea, you know,
Mhm.
they.
They. Sea monsters.
See,
Uh,
what was her name? Crush? Smudge.
oh,
The
that's right,
Loch Ness Monster
Smudge, our
from the
girl,
Aleister Crowley episode.
our ugly girl. The first thing that you see in the video is the tail cone, and I love that, like, the tail cone still has, like, the full company logo on it.
I love that that was not broken.
I know. Like, if that was in a movie, you'd be like, "Okay, we get
Yeah,
it."
a little on the nose. The only thing that would have been, like, more cinematically appealing would have been seeing both sides, and it was broken with, like, ocean on one side and gate on the other, and then, like, a little, like, jagged broken piece, and then,
Perfect jagged, yeah.
like it was cut by, like, a preschooler with those scissors that don't have blades.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, okay, that video was of the tail cone and the remaining piece of hull and the aft end cap of the Titan. Those are the 2 largest sections of the wreckage, and everything else is kinda just shards and pieces, and the forward end cap and ring were found nearby. In October of last year, a paste was found in the aft portion of the hull that was tested and found to contain the DNA of all 5 occupants of the Titan. So, that's that's where they
A
are.
paste was found.
Yeah. So yeah, that's where they
Mm,
are.
okay,
Uh, and
hold
if
on, hold
yes,
on. What do you think it tastes like?
salty.
Well, yes, of course, so good. Is
Yeah, so I mean, I'm a savory
a
girl
little
myself.
a little pâté.
Yeah, definitely, like a
Okay,
strong duck pâté.
yeah, okay.
I wouldn't be able to have very much of it, like,
When
'cause
you
it's
no,
rich.
it sounds very rich. It
Yeah.
literally, like, this is this pâté was incredibly rich.
Very expensive, yeah.
Okay, when you said a paste was found, I was like, "And that's when they realized that they glued the layers together," but that is not what you were about to say.
No, no.
When you watch this back, you're gonna see my jaw, like, you will hear my jaw hit the floor.
Oh, what a little treat for Davi. Okay, and if you look at that hull and aft end piece, all of the shards of the hull appear to sort of be pushed towards that back end cap, which indicates that the failure likely came from forward, possibly delamination or cracks in the bow of the vessel, or from where the front titanium rings and viewport were adhered to the hull. So, it failed around where that secret little Coke toilet was.
Ooh,
Yeah.
did you say the Cope toilet?
Coke toilet?
Oh,
'Cause that's a toilet where you definitely do coke.
Cope toilet is so good though.
The Coke toilet.
Like, I'm pretty sure we're all
The
gonna
sh
die. It's like, I need 10 minutes in this Cope toilet.
Not the cuck of the Titan. The Titan cuck stool. Speaking of the viewport, we discussed in the original episode last year how it wasn't rated for the depths Titanic rested at. The hearings have also revealed that Stockton Rush
I just
Stockton
I love cutting corners so much.
I know, it's so funny.
They I don't know if I said this last time, but I have a memory of saying they cut so many corners, they just made a circle. Like, but if I didn't, pretend that I did, because every
You
single
said
time
it
you bring
now.
one of these things up, it's like I could I could understand thinking you could cut a single corner.
Mhm.
You would be wrong. But to to be like, "No, we can save money here, 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 and here," when you're getting in it is insane. Like, that's
Yes,
wild.
yes.
Like,
That's crazy.
it's not like you're building a car for other people to drive, because then what does it matter if they get into an accident and die? That's not you. You're a billionaire. Why is that your problem? Maybe you'll have to pay out a couple $100,000 when you,
Which
like,
is nothing.
lose a class action lawsuit or whatever, but who cares? But when you're getting in it, that's wild. No
Oh,
sense of
also,
self-preservation.
this is not in my script, but one of the things that did come out in this is that he wasn't even a billionaire. This guy was only worth like 15 mil,
Oh, so he's
right?
poor.
He's poor. This is a working class this is a working class submersible designer.
This everyday workaday
This
Joe, like,
blue
fine.
collar.
This peasant.
Anyway, I really hope that Stockton Rush and Eugene Mulvihill from Action Park are, like, living it up in hell together
Oh,
today. Like, I really
100%.
hope they're putting their heads together. They're thinking up some ideas.
Oh my god, that would be amazing if, as, like, a form of torture, the d the sweet little devil was like, "We need to get some of these girls from Earth on onto the planning committee."
Yeah. He's they're like, "I'm starting a team. I'm building a team." Okay, the hearings revealed that Stockton Rush demanded a unique, untested shape for the viewport. So, submersible viewports rated for
Untested.
submersible viewports rated for extreme depths have a shape that kind of distorts the image when you're looking out, making everything appear further away. But Stockton Rush didn't want the Titanic to look too far away for his paying customers. So he demanded a shape that didn't distort the image but wasn't guaranteed to be safe. And I just have to ask, why couldn't you put a lens on the inside that like corrects the distorted image? Like, why do you need a different viewport?
Why don't you put a fucking camera on the outside?
Why don't you put a fucking I think they did have a camera on the outside, so there's, like, a
But it's
viewport
not the
and a
same,
camera.
I
Yeah,
guess.
but I
But,
mean, you
like, obviously you could at least somewhat correct for that. But also,
yes.
did he think they were doing it to distort it? Like, did he think that they were just, like, trippy or whatever? Like, that there was there wasn't a reason why you would have that specific shape, like,
He was just, like,
under
do it
extreme pressure?
he was doing his Silicon Valley, like, make it better thing, like, design something better, and it's like, well, it's designed this way for a if you wanna design something better, again, build like, make the safe shape and then design a lens that goes on the inside that undistorts the shape, that corrects the shape. Like, come on. The viewport itself has not been found and no shards of it have been found, so it's probably intact somewhere out there in the ocean. It just like popped out.
Cool.
Yeah.
Probably popped up with, like, a lot of force, no?
Yeah.
Like, at that
like
point,
a
because it
zit.
crumpled in, right?
Yeah. So it
Oh, yeah, it's like when you pop a zit and then later you
and it
find
hits
it
the
on the
mirror.
mirror.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're disgusting.
Oh my god, and the paste is the rich people pâté is the
Oh,
pus.
ew. They hit the mirror real hard.
Yeah.
Stockton Rush's cavalier attitude towards safety and cost cutting has been placed under scrutiny in the hearings. Many former employees and contractors with Oceangate have testified that Stockton Rush was a reckless, arrogant charlatan and kind of a ruthless authoritarian as a CEO. One of those who testified was David Lockridge, the whistleblower we talked about in the first Oceangate episode last year. He reported Oceangate to OSHA, and I believe OSHA is also under the microscope in these hearings because Lockridge has basically claimed that all of this could have been avoided if OSHA didn't drag their feet. Anyway, Lockridge relayed this delightful story about a voyage he took with Stockton to see the wreck of the Andrea Doria in 2016. Lockridge expected to be the pilot because he had the most experience, but to quote Lockridge, unfortunately, the CEO decided that he wanted to take it down. I objected because I knew sometimes he could do things to please himself. Stockton then told him, just remember, I'm the CEO, you're just an employee. And I'm going to read a rather long excerpt from an article from People magazine.
This is like me getting on the plane and being like, "Listen, I paid for this ticket, you just work here. Now
No.
get out of the fucking pilot seat." Like, you pay people for a reason, you stupid
You
fuck.
stupid bitch. Like, I have to, like, this
I love that
man
idea.
This man makes Elon Musk look downright fucking reasonable.
Oh my
Like,
god, I love this.
almost immediately, however, there were issues, according to his testimony. Rush ignored concerns about the weather and how the currents in the Atlantic off the coast of Massachusetts were buffeting the dive platform to and fro. Later, Rush, at the helm of the Cyclops, struggled to begin the dive. Lockridge said he attempted to take it off. He didn't do it very well. As they descended, Lockridge said he reminded Rush that they had planned to keep some distance from the wreckage because of the danger it poses to divers who get too close. But Rush rebuffed him. He said, "Don't tell me what to do."
I got it.
The Andrea Doria lies relatively close to the surface, only about 250 feet deep, compared to the Titanic at 2+ miles, and the Cyclops crew had a clear sonar image, Lockridge said. Still, Rush smashed straight down on the bottom, seriously limiting visibility as two of the passengers remarked, "Oh my god, we are right on the wreck," Lockridge said.
Also, I love the fact that they were like, "Let's go see that wreck, Andrea," and I just pictured, like a girl who just, like,
Just
can't keep it together.
mascara running down her face, nibbling on some pizza at 2 a.m.
I love the idea of, like, The Wreck as a title.
Lockridge advised Rush to assess their surroundings and wait for better visibility before continuing the journey, which is standard practice for any competent submersible pilot, he said. He just kept arguing with me in the sub, very unbecoming of a submersible pilot. Very unbecoming, very undemure. Lockridge testified. I'm trying to give the best course of action to get him out of it, but Rush responded with, "No matter what, I'm doing this." Rush then decided to do an unusual maneuver, Lockridge said,
Mhm.
turning the Cyclops about 180 degrees while moving and ended up going full speed into the port side of the bow, and we could hear the cracking as he got us jammed underneath. He drove the submersible into a shipwreck.
Okay, but, like, yes, I do support him. Like, I know that this is dangerous and stupid, but at the same time, it's
It's
funny because 'cause I'm
funny.
not in there. If I was down there, I would've slit his throat, I can tell you that right the fuck now. I'd be like, "You are not killing us, bitch." Like, that is not happening.
I'm not going to say how foul my language was, Lockridge told Coast Guard investigators on Tuesday, but it wasn't good. At that point, it was unprofessional behavior of him. He started to panic, and the first thing was asking, do we have enough life support on board? So the CEO who's been driving it.
He's like, "Do we only have enough for one? Do do we o how many oxygen can I use 2 of these?"
Is there a way to kick someone off without letting any water in?
Yeah, because like, and if we need to, don't need to, like,
Who do we need to eat?
yeah, which one of these is the airlock, and which one of these and which one of these leads to the hibachi? Because I'm just
Lockridge said, remembering what happened next, I was like, Stockton, of course we have enough life support. We need to get out of here. Rush asked about getting a support dive team from the surface to help, but Lockridge asked to take the controls, he said. Instead, Rush just kept repeating, we're stuck, we're stuck, we're stuck, Lockridge said. Every time I went to take the controller from him, he pushed it further and further behind him. He testified, he's like holding it away like a toddler. Elsewhere in his testimony, he commented wryly on the widely discussed fact that Oceangate submersibles were controlled via PlayStation controller. Lockridge said that during the dive to the Andrea Doria, while he had gone to look out into the ocean from inside the sub to assess the situation, Rush never once got out of the seat in the back of the sub. Eventually, it took one of the paying clients. She shouted at Stockton to give me the fucking controller. She had tears in her eyes, Lockridge said. Rush obliged in his way, Lockridge said. He threw the controller at Lockridge and clattered it off the right side of my head. Then it hit the ground and one of the buttons came off. Ro-
Okay, there is one person in every, like, survival story that gets it, that just, like, somebody has to fucking kill or they'll kill all of you, that just keeps making bad decisions, and, like,
yes.
he, like, really filled that role from the moment they tried to start going down, like, that's wild.
Yeah.
Usually it takes a bit for somebody to crack and start acting in a way that's, like, putting everybody else in danger, like hoarding food or, like, doing, like, like, rams them into the wreck and then
Yeah.
breaks the controller, like.
Yeah. Throws it at a guy's head. The only guy
Whew.
who can rescue them. Like,
I'm
definitely
sorry,
would hide a zombie bite.
he does not, yeah, 100%, and also he does not have enough money to be doing this. This is not
No.
$15 million behavior. I'm so sorry. You need to be a Billy for this. Like,
Lockridge said he quickly fixed the controller, took the helm, and had us out within 15 minutes.
oh, I would have been so mad. I would have had him executed.
Rush's longtime friend, a man named Carl Stanley, suggested that he knew he was going to die in his submersible eventually and basically put himself and others in danger repeatedly so that he could be the most famous of his famous relatives. So, like, this is one of the questions that's like coming up in the hearings is like, why did Stockton get into the subs? Did he think he was invincible or did he know he was going to die? And like, this guy has been friends with Stockton for like more than 10 years, has like gone down with him on expeditions in the submersibles. And Stockton's like ancestors, like two of them signed the Declaration of Independence. So this guy is like, he basically wanted to be the most famous. And he knew the easiest way to do that was to die in some spectacular way that got a lot of attention.
That's fair.
But he took a 19-year-old with him. Like,
Well, most of these people shoot up a school. So, like, I'm grading on a curve
it's so
here.
true. It's so true.
Like,
Rob McCallum, a deep sea exploration specialist, repeatedly urged Stockton Rush to have his submersibles certified by an independent agency, basically until Oceangate's lawyers threatened him with legal action. And we're going to perform a little play because some of those emails were released to the BBC. So you play Stockton Rush, and I'm going to play Rob
perfect.
McCallum.
I'm going to get my
Um,
15 milli voice on.
okay. So I'm Rob McCallum, and you're Stockton. You were wanting to use a prototype unclassed technology in a very hostile place. As much as I appreciate entrepreneurship and innovation, you are potentially putting an entire industry at risk.
I know that our engineering focused, innovative approach, as opposed to an existing standards compliance focused design process, flies in the face of the submersible orthodoxy. But that is the nature of innovation. I've grown tired of industry players who try to use a safety argument to stop innovation and new entrants from entering their small existing market. Since Guillermo and I started Oceangate, we have heard the baseless cries of, "You were gonna kill someone," way too often. I take this as a serious personal insult.
I think you are potentially placing yourself and your clients in a dangerous dynamic. Ironically, in your race to Titanic, you are mirroring that famous catch cry, "She is unsinkable." Having dived to the Titanic and having stood in a coroner's court as a technical expert, it would be remiss of me to not bring this to your attention.
Gatekeepers.
Oops.
You are ocean gatekeepers.
Ocean
You just
gatekeepers.
you just don't want people, you don't wanna
Mm.
let me in your little club because you have hundreds of millions and I only have 15s of millions. Fif 15 of millions.
I've had enough of your submersible orthodoxy.
Ah, these people legitimately do think that they are smarter than
Mm,
everyone else, and not just
and every
everyone
expert.
else, than every expert combined.
Yes.
It's like these people just never thought about doing things my cool, innovative way, and it's like they most of the time, this has been tried, and
Yeah.
then
And
bitches
people died.
died.
Matthew McCoy, a former OceanGate operations technician, testified that when asked what he would do if the US government intervened in OceanGate's operations, Rush responded that if the Coast Guard became a problem, then he would go buy himself a congressman and make it go away. Which
Which
also, like,
one?
$15 million is not buy yourself a congressman money.
No,
Like, come
he was
on.
really full of himself.
Yeah.
Like,
You
I'm
can't buy a
sorry.
politician
No,
with 15 mil.
15,000,000?
Stop.
That's, like, less than, like, a Taylor Swift album would sell. Like, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, but, like,
That's
that's
like,
embarrassing.
you need Taylor Swift money to buy a congressman.
Oh, 100%.
The business OceanGate itself was not doing well under Stockton Rush, who often had to dip into his own coffers to make payroll. Maybe that's why he had 15 mil.
Oh,
And
yeah.
no one
This is
would.
like Elon. It's like
He was
accidentally
having.
spending 45 billion on Twitter
Yeah,
and then making
and
it
being
worth like
like,
3 billion.
now
Oops.
I'm poor. Yeah. And no one with any salt in the industry would touch it with a 10-foot pole. After the implosion, OceanGate announced that it was suspending operations, but during the hearings this September, they officially announced that they are shuttering. So luckily, they
Yeah, I
won't be
bet.
returning. Given that Stockton Rush's technology was untested, given that he poured so much money and effort into Titan, given that he was putting living people into it and pushing it past its limits, you'd think he'd actually take care of fucking Titan itself, right?
Well, I wouldn't, but it would make sense if he did. Not
But
like in character, but
yeah, but he did not. In the
Mhm.
days and weeks leading up to its final voyage, Titan was left outside in the elements, dragged behind multiple vessels, struck by lightning, and flipped upside down and almost lost by the crew of the Polar Prince on the same mission where it imploded. Like, they narrowly.
This is
I was watching.
amazing.
I was watching a YouTube video talking about how they almost lost it, and the guy was like, they were very lucky here because they almost lost. And I was like, I don't think that they were lucky. I think they would have been
No.
more lucky if they'd lost the submersible. If the submersible went
Very
down there
lucky.
itself.
Bye. And then it had imploded. And then
Yeah,
they were like, "Thank God we
empty.
weren't in that."
Yeah.
Yeah.
On the same mission, it suffered malfunctions, causing an earlier dive attempt to be aborted. And like in the articles where they're talking about this dive attempt being aborted, they talk about like opening it up and like the passengers like tumbling out because they'd all been thrown towards the back. Stockton Rush's custom acoustic warning system. Remember, he designed this acoustic warning system that
Mhm.
would like let you know. So that actually worked. And it warned him on an earlier dive of damage done to the hull. But he ignored the warnings from the acoustic warning system that he specifically designed to warn him. He was like,
He hit
it's nothing.
snooze.
It's fine. Yes. He did that thing like where you're like, I'm setting up app limits. I can only use Twitter for
Yeah.
like an hour a day. And then you're like, ignore.
Yeah,
Continue for
ignore.
another 15 minutes.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
fine.
But he did that with a submersible.
And it all worked out all right.
It did. It did.
Look at
It's
them now.
fine.
They're famous.
Text messages sent and received between the Titan and the Polar Prince on their internal comm system were released as part of the hearings. The second to last message sent by the Titan was, all good here. The last message was released to weights, which could indicate that the passengers were aware that something was wrong, which is terrifying. 6 seconds later, Titan's navigation system pinged the Polar Prince one last time. And without further ado, last year's episode on the Titan implosion and Stockton Rush.
Enjoy.
Sweaty, it's no surprise that everyone celebrated your demise, and now worms are eating your eyes. So don't you worry your rotting head as you sleep in your sodden bed. It's time to respect the dead.
Hi, everybody. I'm Hoots.
I'm Kalen.
And I'm Andy.
Okay, so I'm not going to tease this one out with you guys. You know what I'm going to talk about today.
Yeah,
We don't
do.
need any preamble. Let's get to the bottom of the motherfucking ocean.
Let's get there.
So,
Let's go deep.
for a period of about 2 weeks last month, there was like only one thing that I was tweeting about. And everybody knows what it is. We're going to talk about the Titan submersible explosion.
Yay.
Yep.
I like how
Yep.
I already learned so much because I didn't know it was an explosion. I was like, was it an explosion? Was it an implosion?
It was an implosion.
Did it get eaten by a whale?
It was an implosion, and implosions like explode as well.
Explode?
They go implode,
Okay.
explode.
I think I
implode.
saw you tweeting about this.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's technically an implosion. I'll probably use the words interchangeably at some point. It's the same idea, though. Thing go boom. As most people listening to this podcast know, the Titan submersible was part of a small fleet of submersibles owned by a company called Oceangate. Oceangate was founded in 2009 by an American businessman named Stockton Rush, which, like, just as like a little sidebar, like if you were like writing like a comedy sketch about like a San Francisco, like a Silicon Valley, like venture capitalist, and you named him Stockton Rush, I'd be like take it a step back, like that's
right, a
too
little
on
too
the nose.
on the nose.
Yeah,
Yeah, a little too obvious.
it literally, like
Yeah.
if you told me that what's his face from Don't Look Up, like the tech guy from Don't Look Up was called Stockton Rush, I would believe you. So it was formed by Stockton Rush and his partner Guillermo Sonline. Stockton had grown up in a wealthy San Francisco family, and as a kid, like a lot of kids, he wanted to be an astronaut, but as a rich kid, he'd really had the kind of resources to make that a reality. So he studied hard, he got good grades, and he started scuba diving at the age of 12 and achieved his commercial piloting license at the age of 18, which is kind of a remarkable thing, not just in terms of knowledge and skill, but again, in terms of privilege, because to get any kind of a piloting license, much less a commercial one, takes hundreds of hours of flight time, which is prohibitively expensive for most kids and most adults, like most normal people that want to become commercial pilots for commercial airlines, like end up with about the same amount of student debt as somebody who becomes a doctor.
Jesus.
I actually know somebody who was trying to become a commercial airline pilot, and then she decided to take a bit of a break, and she's going to go, I think, for her private license instead or something. But she was explaining some of the stuff that you're talking about, and it's a lot. It's hard. It's a lot.
It's very expensive. But he grew up wealthy enough that like he got that by the time he was 18. His parents paid for him to learn how to fly and to learn scuba diving. Like piloting is the typical avenue that you take to become an astronaut. You usually go work for the Air Force or as an Army pilot or something. And you like scuba diving, like a lot of the training that astronauts do involve like water recreation, because it's similar to the weightlessness of space. So like his hobbies were very tailored towards this end goal of becoming an astronaut when he was a kid. So Stockton actually, again, like he was aiming to join the military because that's your easiest avenue to becoming an astronaut. But Stockton failed the physical exam for military pilots because his vision was too weak. So he kind of just immediately gave up on the dream of becoming an astronaut, but he did achieve his Bachelor's of Science in Aerospace Engineering from Princeton. And in 1989, he received a Master of Business Administration from UC Berkeley, both very well-respected institutions.
So like how bad was his vision that he was not able to be a military pilot, but they were like, oh, a plane full of people? Absolutely.
Well, that's the thing. The military has higher standards than, commercial airlines.
The American military?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
To fly a plane.
I learn something new every day.
You could join the military with poor vision and do like office work. Like there are a lot of jobs you can do, but like it
depends on the job you're doing will affect where you can go.
He specifically wanted to join the military to become a pilot, and they said, you can't do that. Here's some other jobs you can do. And he was like, well, no, I don't want to serve my country. I want to be an astronaut.
I don't want to do that. I want to go to space.
No. I think you're super confused. This is about me.
I don't like to
and my
I don't like
journey.
to file papers because I don't like to get paper cuts. So
Which, I mean, like, it makes sense because, like,
if it's not what you want to do, then, like, whatever, right?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I get it. I'd probably do the same thing. Like, well, screw this. I quit the whole thing.
he's not joining the military to get, like, his student debts paid off or whatever. Like, he doesn't need to be there. So if it's not going to be what
beneficial to him
wanted to go, then
he's not patriotic.
fuck off.
Yeah.
But he still considered flying and scuba diving as hobbies throughout his life. He even built his own plane at one point, his own like experimental plane that he flew his entire life. He just like kept his experimental plane in his backyard and fly. It wasn't actually in his backyard, but that's what I like to imagine.
I would believe it was in his backyard because he sounds like someone who could have a very large backyard.
Maybe he had his own little like airplane hangar in his backyard. Yeah,
a little runway. Yeah.
He worked as a venture capitalist in San Francisco for a while before moving up to Washington and working for Remote Control Technology in 1989, which is
that the name of the company?
Yeah, it's the name of the company, and it's exactly what it sounds like. They make remote controls.
I just find that very funny when that happens because, like, in today's standard, you don't want to name your company something that's like nearly impossible to Google.
Yeah.
Because like every other remote control company has like their own name and branding, and you're just like, oh no, we're food selling store. It's like
food subsidiaries. In 2006, he took his first trip on a submarine in British Columbia, and this ignited his interest in deep sea diving. So we're going to call this one another L for Canada.
Oops. Sorry about Jordan Peterson, everyone.
I appreciate you apologizing on behalf.
And you're welcome
of
for
your
Celine Dion.
I was about to say, we love Celine, though. And actually, while we're talking about deep sea diving, we love James Cameron. Give it up for our boy. He's Canadian.
Oh, you're welcome for that too, then. He built the movie that sank the ship that they were going to go see.
That's right. It was so fucked up of him to kill those 1,500 people just so he could get a movie.
But the footage was fantastic.
It was amazing. When that guy hit the rotor.
So good. Yeah.
Unscripted. That was
you can't recreate
improv.
that.
Yeah. Wow. He's a real pro. R.I.P. He was a real pro.
The P stands for pro.
Rest in professional.
It's resting. Yeah, it's like the G is cut off. It's got the little apostrophe.
Stockton specifically gets interested in the idea of owning a submersible, which is for everybody listening. A submersible is different from a submarine in that a submarine is autonomous. It can dock and it can sail great distances by itself, etc. Whereas a submersible is essentially sort of a tender vessel. It's smaller and it needs a mothership to actually transport it to and from the right coordinates of wherever whatever the planned dive site is, and then
she's more up and down, right?
Yeah, she basically just dives down like an elevator, more like a corkscrew for most of them. But yeah, they don't have the power to kind of transport great distances. But usually, because they're so very very small, they're better for the fine work of like exploring shipwrecks or doing like very specific like things like laying cable.
Mhm.
Right. Okay.
At first, Stockton had just planned to purchase a submersible, but he quickly learned that there are only a few privately owned submersibles in the world, like double digits. There's less than 100 privately owned submersibles in the world, and probably not many more than that owned by governments. Like there are not that many submersibles. The mere submersibles that James Cameron, Canadian icon, used to film the wreck sequences of Titanic were literally borrowed from Russia.
Oh, damn. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So he constructed his own miniature submersible using blueprints provided to him by a retired U.S. Navy submarine commander. The vessel Rush constructed was 4 meters long, 13 feet long, and capable of diving to a depth of 10 meters or 33 feet. So like one of those cool free diving swimming pools, basically.
Yeah, I was like this is not
a ton.
This is nothing.
Yeah, that's one that he like just built on his own by himself. So it's still impressive. It's like building your own plane.
I guess.
But yeah, it like could basically go to the bottom of one of those really freaky free dive pools. I hate those things. Like watching those like TikToks of people free diving down those things. It really freaks me out.
Absolutely not.
Yeah.
Oh, I can't. Oh, they freak me out.
I definitely like I have whatever that fear is of seeing things that are submerged. Like I would never want to explore a shipwreck.
Absolutely not.
Because yeah, I don't know what it is. Even like when I'm a big theme park fan, and when I go to like Disneyland and go on Splash Mountain and I see, or like the Jungle Cruise and like see the animatronics that are partially submerged.
Oh yeah.
The idea of like the idea of like walking around in that like knee-high water with like something underneath it makes me like want to throw up.
And you should throw up because that's disgusting.
Yeah. So part of the reason I find all of this so interesting is because I find it terrifying.
The idea of being in a submarine, a submersible, anything like that, or going to space, like that's one of my big fears. Like I can't watch a movie about people in space without immediately getting so claustrophobic. And I'm like, why would they do that? I will not go anywhere I can't take an Uber home from. Like
I also have no interest to go to space.
There's nothing up there.
Mostly because there's nothing there. Like here we have Trader Joe's. But if somebody was like, okay, you have to take one of these trips or we'll kill you, either deep sea or space, it would be space, like no contest. Like I would much rather get shot in a rocket up into the sky than like ride a submersible down to like the Mariana Trench or something.
Yeah. And I'm the opposite. I find the idea of space absolutely terrifying. I would never want to go to space. So if I had that choice, I'd be like, yeah, put me in the ocean. Put me in the ocean. Fuck it. I'll get eaten by a giant squid. I don't care. I don't want to be in space. That's just terrifying.
And this is the difference between someone who is scared of heights and someone who's scared of like creepy things in the water.
Yeah, exactly.
And around 2007, Stockton decided he'd like to form a submarine company, and he founds Oceangate with his business partner Guillermo Sondline in 2009. Now, Guillermo was not on the submersible that imploded and thus is still alive, so I'm not going to dwell on him too much, but He is an Argentinian American startup guy. In 1998, he founded a speech recognition company called Milo, and also really bad SEO, Milo.
Also bad.
I guess you could Google Milo speech recognition, but yeah, when your company's just named a guy's name, like, come on. And he also advised on a bunch of tech startups in Washington, D.C. In 2003, he founded the International Association of Space Entrepreneurs. Eventually, this became the Space Frontier Foundation,
Nerd.
which was/is a nonprofit meant to encourage entrepreneurs to develop aerospace ventures and space travel startups. So the budding commercial space industry.
Yeah.
Right.
And in 2006, he founded a for-profit angel investors group for aerospace ventures called Space Angels.
No. Okay. There's definitely been talks at like the Conscious Life Expo or whatever where people talk about space angels and how to get one to take notice of you.
I feel Space Angel sounds like some kind of like early aughts young adult television series with a bunch of teenage girls who are in space and they're good looking, but they solve space crimes or something.
The Space Angel Diaries.
Yes.
Good looking and diverse. It sounds like, I can't explain it.
Diverse.
Yeah. They're also
Not
very
too
light skinned.
All very, very Euro features, very light skinned, but like
this
one of
show's
them's
very
Asian.
diverse. We have 4 people with brown hair in it.
Yeah.
They're all white, but you expected one to be blonde, and that's very diverse. I'm just talking about the Vampire Diaries now. But like,
you know, I can't explain it, but like something about Space Angels also sounds like something that would be on Neopets.
it does sound poorly translated from something.
Am I alone there?
Kind of.
Well,
Space Angels just sounds like it would be a pet on Neopets or a game or something.
A space angel.
Anyway, in addition to his space stuff and Oceangate, Guillermo also relaunched a nonprofit member association for the Marine Technology Society intended to support students and industry professionals in marine-related fields. And he founded the Sea Space Initiative, a project meant to encourage collaboration between the ocean and space industries, because there's a lot of overlap between the aerospace and deep sea industries. I guess they're both kind of considered the last 2 frontiers. Yeah. The plan with Oceangate was to acquire 5 vessels that could be leased to paying customers and could be used to operate undersea tours. They started with Antipodes, an existing submersible that the company purchased for around $300,000 in 2009. $300,000 also for like
cheap.
A submersible? Yeah, like
that doesn't sound much.
No, that I don't know what the going rate for submersibles are, but like I feel like like a decent like upper middle class salary for one seems like on the low end.
Yeah, I would think they would run at least like $1 million.
Yeah, that's what I was assuming.
That seems really low.
You could get a submersible for less than a house. Like,
right?
Oceangate's first tourist excursion with Antipodes was conducted in 2010 and operated out of Catalina Island in California, just down the road from me, where they mostly just went down and like looked at fish and stuff. They continued to use Antipodes for tourist excursions throughout the United States, as well as working with the University of Washington to conduct sonar and robotic arm trials. And in 2011, they used Antipodes to survey the wreck of the SS Governor, a ship that had sunk in Puget Sound in 1921.
Puget is like not a pretty name. I know I always point out when something is a pretty name, but like Puget is not one of them.
I think any name that starts with Pew just doesn't, Pubert doesn't have a
Pubert.
Very pretty.
Shout out to the cutest baby in the world. The plan to acquire already existing submersibles pivoted to creating their own submersibles in 2013 in an effort to be more cost effective. Cost is going to be the tragicomic running theme of Oceangate and Stockton Rush, who was first and foremost a businessman.
Spoilers.
He was quoted in a Fast Company interview from 2017 as saying, Turns out one of the reasons was that people had not looked at the business aspect of operating a manned sub because operations were funded by governments through universities and research. Nobody thought about cost. Nobody thought about revenue.
And then what happens when they do? I mean, we'll get to that. Never mind.
We're going to find out. We're gonna find out.
Like, there are definitely some places to pinch a couple pennies. Like, maybe you don't put the straws on the condiment stand at a cafe because people will like grab a bunch at once, or they'll grab one if it's too full and one will fall out on the floor and then you have to throw it out and that's a waste. But on like manned craft that are being going into the bottom of the ocean, like maybe we spend the pennies instead.
Yeah.
And just that thing of him saying like, oh, they weren't thinking about the revenue. It's like, yeah, because they were probably worried about the safety or some other concerns first.
Or they were thinking about the revenue, which is that people will not pay to go on your submersible if it implodes.
Yeah. Well, it was in his quote. It was like it was these submersibles that were funded by governments that were using them like in collaboration with universities to do research. The point of them was not to make money.
It wasn't about making a profit. And he's like, nobody's making a profit. That's silly. I better come in here and fix that.
And fix it he did.
With his corpse.
It is... We're mostly focusing on Stockton Rush because he is dead. But it is also notable that Guillermo Sondland left the company at this time that they pivoted. Now, he's quoted as saying that he left because the company transitioned to engineering, which he said was Stockton's specialty. Citation needed. Not his.
I mean, he built things, I guess.
But it is interesting that he did leave around the time that they pivoted to making their own submersibles instead of acquiring them, because like everything else about his career didn't suggest that he had anything against building submersibles. My conspiracy theory is like that he knew that this was a bad move. And like also a CEO doesn't need to be an engineer. Like Elon Musk is not an engineer. Like
he's not.
No.
You can be the CEO and co-founder of a company and not know how to make the things that your company makes. You hire people for that.
Right. Like, have you ever heard Elon Musk try to explain how any of his shit works? He has no idea. He's just like, it just does it. It's like you talking to like your grandfather about how his television works. Like he's like, I just hit this button and then it turns on to my program. He's so dumb.
My grandfather's dead, Mandy.
And you know what? I'm glad that Elon Musk isn't having any kind of role in building Teslas, because they'd be blowing up even more than they are.
I wouldn't want to operate anything he's made.
Everybody pause. Because I was like, my grandfather's dead, Mandy. And Hoots was like, and you know what? I'm really glad. And I was like, oh, where are we going with this? Like, oh, damn.
Yeah, grandfather's died, Caitlin. Okay, jeez.
Like, actually, Kaylin, surprise. This episode's about your dead grandfather. He's a real piece of shit.
We're going to really hard pivot now to talking about your grandfather.
Yeah, fuck you, Kaylin. And fuck you, Kaylin's grandpa.
Nazis guy.
Fucking power move.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about your grandpa waving his dick around in front of the Nazis.
Yeah, literally.
Anyways, okay, sorry.
So,
I couldn't let that lie there.
Oceangate starts by building the Cyclops 1, which was rated at 500 meters and completed in 2015. Now,
500 meters doesn't sound far.
No, it was
deep
a
is the
shallow
fucking ocean.
It was a shallow water submersible.
Do you need a submersible for that?
I mean, yeah.
How many meters do you explode as a person?
Over 500. Oh. I mean, you don't want to free dive down to 500 meters.
Even with like a little string that has oxygen going through it. A little tank. Okay. I can't picture 500 meters, so it's hard.
Let me see. 500 meters in feet. Oh, 2 miles.
Oh, okay.
So it's about a third of a mile.
It's a third of a mile.
Okay.
Okay.
500 meters compared.
Kilometers.
How tall is CN Tower in meters? 553. Okay, now I'm seeing it. I needed something like for scale.
Okay, so there's a tower. So yes, a vehicle that could take you that far down in water. So for looking at like fish and shit, or for looking at like there are a lot of shallow shipwrecks. Tragically, there are a lot of shallow shipwrecks. Now, with Titan, a lot was made of her carbon fiber hull, and the hull for Cyclops 1 was also planned to be a carbon fiber hull, but Oceangate instead acquired a 12-year-old vessel, Lula, from a company in the Azores, and it extracted the cylindrical steel hull of the Lula and used it to create Cyclops 1. So they just retooled
Upcycled.
another. Yeah, they upcycled. They upcycled a different submersible. So Cyclops 1 did not have a carbon fiber hull and was also rated at much shallower depths than the later vehicle that we're going to be discussing. As I said, Cyclops 1 was a shallower water vehicle made in collaboration with the University of Washington and was used to take trips down to the bottom of Puget Sound. Oceangate ordered the first titanium components for Cyclops 2 in December 2016. Cyclops 2 is the vessel that will be eventually rechristened to Titan.
Okay.
Oceangate intended for Cyclops 2 to be the fleet's first deep-sea submersible, and they contract Spencer Composites in January of 2017 to design and build the cylindrical carbon fiber hull. Oceangate is going to go on and claim that the Applied Physics Lab at University of Washington, Boeing, and NASA partnered or advised them on the construction of Titan. And after the submersible implosion, every single one of these organizations will issue press releases saying that these claims were bold-faced lies by Stockton Rush. Like, University of Washington literally came forward and was like, we worked on Cyclops 1, but we had nothing to do with the Titan. And like Boeing and NASA were like, we have no idea what this fucking guy is talking about.
We don't know her.
Yeah. While his new submersible is in development, Stockton Rush immediately starts putting out press releases announcing his intention to use it to operate tours down to the wreck of RMS Titanic. He also does that Fast Company interview I mentioned before, which was released on April 14th, 2017, 105 years after the Titanic struck the iceberg, which I think was a very tacky move.
Yeah, just a little.
And it was clearly done on purpose, and I thought it was tacky. And in it, he outlines his real plans for the future of Oceangate. Deep sea motherfucking drilling, baby.
No, there it is.
No.
Drill, baby, drill.
I didn't know this.
Yes. So this is the exact quote. The biggest resource is oil and gas, and they spend about $16 billion a year on robots to service oil and gas platforms. But oil and gas companies don't take new technology. They want it proven. They want it out there. So the business plan for Oceangate was to prove their technology through these Titanic expeditions.
Okay.
Titanic rests at an incredible depth. It's 2.5 miles below the ocean surface. It is so deep that fewer than 200 human beings have ever actually visited the gravesite in the 37 years since her final resting place was discovered. So yes, very few vessels can actually reach that kind of depth. And if you're trying to prove your submarine technology, I guess that is like a decent proving ground. Additionally, Titanic is probably the most famous shipwreck in history, and people go absolutely nuts over it, including me. So Stockton was hoping that the Titanic tours would make the business profitable enough to begin the next phase of Oceangate. So basically, he was like getting his fucking crash test dummies to pay for his project.
Yeah.
That he was going to sell to oil and gas companies. Like real piece of shit stuff. Now, the Fast Company journalist, Melissa Locker, who interviewed him, pressed Stockton Rush on how he felt about the environmental and ecological repercussions of building submersibles for mining and oil companies to use to drill into our oceans. And his response was very interesting. Quote, I view it like needle exchange. These things are going to happen one way or the other. We're not going to be involved in oil production. We're just going to be involved in inspection, repair, and maintenance. And the cheaper you make that, the more you'll do it. I fucking hate this analogy because a person getting clean needle
exchange.
A person getting clean needles as like part of a harm reduction intervention isn't also getting everyone else on the planet high with heroin.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
It's
like
so different.
Yeah.
Not even remotely the fucking same. One of them, you're helping someone on like an individual level, saying like, okay, I know you're struggling with this addiction. Here, at least is a way for you to be safe while you do this. And the other is fucking up our planet even more, so that everyone's getting hurt.
If the heroin addict fucks up and overdoses, they're the only person who dies. If somebody destroying the environment fucks up and destroys it too hard, we all die.
Look what's happening right now. Half the world's on fucking fire. Like, Jesus.
I fucking hate this piece of shit.
I hate it.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not actually going to be involved in oil production. I'm just going to be helping a little bit.
I'm just helping them.
So you're involved. You're involved.
What is
literally your
mean?
business plan.
You're not
literally,
out there
you want to make money
yourself,
off of them.
like...
And how are they going to? What are they going to do with your technology? Like, Jesus, I hate him.
Yeah, he's a real piece of shit, and I'm so glad that this story has a happy ending.
Yep.
Cyclops 2 was completed in 2018 and renamed Titan. So before we get into the missions and problems with Titan, I want to talk a minute about her construction. And to do that, I'm going to have to talk about PSI. I'm going to toss around a lot of terms like PSI or atmospheres of pressure. So to understand those terms, PSI stands for pounds per square inch. And 1 atmosphere of pressure is the mean atmosphere of pressure at sea level. So like roughly where the amount of pressure on us right now, depending on, I think we're all at sea level roughly, which is about 14 pounds per square inch, 14 PSI. So like every day we're walking around with roughly 14 PSI in pressure, like pushing on us, depending on, how close to sea level we live. People who are up in the mountains have like a little bit less, and people who are down at sea level have around 14 pounds. The inside of my bike tires is around 40 to 60 PSI, which is more pressure than outside, which is, again, around 14 PSI, which means it has outward pressure because there's more pressure inside of the tire, sort of filling it out and pressing it out.
Yes.
Likewise, the pressurized cabin of an airplane is an example of outward pressure because there's less air pressure outside at 30,000 feet above sea level. And the pressurized cabin is pressured to sea level. Submarines and submersibles are subject to inward pressure due to the billions of pounds of ocean water pressing on them from all directions. Titanic sits at a depth where the pressure is around 6,000 PSI, which is it's about 408 atmospheres of pressure. So anything sitting at that depth is subject to about 400 times the weight of the air around you right now.
Mm-hmm.
So a question that I saw like popping up a lot on Reddit and Twitter around the time that all of this world was like all the world was obsessing about this and we were all tweeting about it all the time, is why, if the submersible couldn't withstand those depths, the Titanic isn't just like crumbling under the weight of the ocean? And the answer...
Isn't it broken open?
Yes. And the answer is differential pressure. So, and also the Titanic was never pressurized inside.
Yeah, like it's not going to implode. Like it wasn't.
Yeah.
Right. It was just all open. And
so like, if it's not a balloon, then why can't I pop it? Like, I don't understand the question.
So you're understanding, you're understanding differential pressure, which is something that like, again, I saw this question popping up a lot. So like, for anyone who is wondering that, who is listening, differential pressure, which is what scuba divers tend to call delta P, I like to call it DP because I think it's funny, is something that a lot of scuba divers in shallower waters have to worry about, because if you're swimming by like a pipe or something with an air pocket, you can basically get like suctioned into the pipe and drown due to the change in pressure. And that suctioning is due to drastically different pressures trying to regulate themselves. And with something like pressure equalizing very suddenly with a submersible at extreme depths, the result is an implosion. It's violent. Whereas an already waterlogged ship sinking like Titanic, it's kind of already at an equilibrium. So there isn't like that violent change in pressure. Human bodies will reach this equilibrium as well. If your rib cage will crush and your eardrums and blood vessels will burst, but your corpse will largely remain intact. And following Titanic sinking, any victims who weren't wearing life jackets just sort of slowly rained down onto the wreck, where they were eventually devoured by deep sea critters. And we know their final resting places based on pairs of shoes that have been found together. So single shoes were likely in luggage, but anywhere where shoes were found in pairs, there was presumed to have been a corpse at one point. And in certain cases, coats and belts were also preserved down there. So you've got an entire outfit sitting where
I guess there's not that much movement, right?
No, I mean, there's a little bit, but it's the seas down there are very calm. Mostly things that have moved around, again, have been like eaten up by like deep sea crabs and stuff. And I mean, the decay of the human body does occur faster at those depths because of like the pressure and because of the salt water. Like your bones will dissolve faster. Any like meat would have been eaten up before it had a chance to decay, but like bones decay faster at that rate. I think I read somewhere that the bones would have kind of dissolved in about 5 years.
Oh, that's fast.
Yeah,
that's
it's
really
much
fast.
faster than
I'm going to put all my bodies in the ocean.
Yeah. So if I explained any of that wrong, please feel free to tweet at us about it, to leave a 5-star review and tell me what I said wrong. But let's talk about the construction of Titan. The 3 most infamous details about the Titan submersible at this point are as follows. That it was an experimental design with a composite titanium and carbon fiber hull. The main body of the vessel was made of carbon fiber with titanium rings, hatch cap, and viewport. 2, that the Titan was an electric vessel controlled with a wireless Logitech controller designed for PlayStation 3.
Oh my God, it was wireless?
Yeah. And 3, that the passengers were bolted into the vessel from the outside with no egress. A couple of weird design quirks that maybe didn't get as much media attention are the color, which I was bitching about a lot. It's white, which doesn't make it super easy to find if it's lost and bobbing around on the surface somewhere.
Right.
And the unique...
That's why submarines are like yellow.
Yes. And that's why lifeboats, if you ever go like on a cruise ship or something, lifeboats are always orange or yellow because they have to find you somewhere if you get stuck in the middle of the fucking ocean. Yeah.
Because they actually weren't just concerned with revenue.
Yeah. They didn't, because I mean, like, I don't know this for certain, but I'm pretty certain that Stockton Rush just wanted that cute little apple aesthetic, which is why he painted it white. He was like, he had permanent terminal tech bro brain, you know?
Yeah.
And the other thing is the unique teardrop shape. So spheres are the strongest shapes. Most deep sea vessels' main hulls are small and spherical, but Stockton Rush wanted to take tourists with him to the ocean floor, so he opted for a weaker, more elongated design. The hull, as I said, was commissioned by Spencer Composites, who also built Virgin Oceanic's Deep Flight Challenger, not to be confused with James Cameron's Deep Sea Challenger, which was also designed to reach the base of the Challenger Deep in the Mariana Trench. Deep Flight Challenger, unlike Deep Sea Challenger, was never successful. It never successfully completed that mission. And some of the initial testing in that vessel determined that if they were to take it down to those sort of depths, the composite hull, which is made of carbon epoxy with a viewport made of quartz, could only make the journey once. So just put a pin in that. Challenger Deep is much deeper than the final resting place of Titanic, but make a note of that like one trip thing when we're talking about the Titan and composite hulls.
Yeah.
Before the announcement of the construction of Titan in 2015, Stockton Rush actually sought advice from a marine technology company, Doer Marine, on constructing deep sea vessels. And Doer's president, Liz Taylor, not that Liz Taylor, but a different Liz Taylor, specifically warned him against using carbon fiber. In 2023, she recounted that carbon fiber specifically, quote, has been shown to not be very happy when it's being immersed, first of all, and then being hollow on the inside, or just one atmosphere on the inside, and then having the tremendous pressure of the ocean trying to push in on it, it's not the right material.
She sounds like she needs to mind her own business. If a couple billionaires want to go down there in a tin can, who is she to tell them what to do?
Stockton Rush felt very similarly to the way you do, Kaylin. He did not like being told that his ideas were bad. In the days following the implosion, lots of news outlets would report on an interview Stockton did where he said he didn't want to hire a bunch of old white guys because he wanted to inspire the next generation of submarine engineers. And that's why he staffed his company with pretty much only recent university grads. And a lot of right-leaning figures have run with this narrative that this was due to wokeness because of the old white guys comment, but it wasn't. It wasn't about wokeness. It was because Stockton Rush, A, didn't want to have to pay experts, and B, didn't want he didn't want anybody contradicting his stupid ass ideas or his vision either.
Yeah, he wanted a bunch of yes men. He wanted a bunch of inexperienced people who will go, yes, that sounds like a great idea, sir. Yes, indeed.
Yes, king.
Classic Aries.
Yeah. Be like, yes.
In 2018, Oceangate's director of marine operations, David Lockridge, documented a number of safety concerns he had about Titan, and he was fired for it. In his complaint, Lockridge also expressed concern over the carbon fiber hull, mentioning that a scale replica of the hull that had previously been examined showed prevalent flaws, and urged the company to have the vessel certified by an official agency. But they refused to do so because that costs money.
Think of the revenue. Think of the revenue.
Lockridge also expressed his concern over the viewport, which was only rated to depths of around 1,300 feet, while the vessel was intended to travel to the RMS Titanic at depths just shy of 4,000 feet. So, this is a thing that a lot of people have brought up in the time since the implosion. The rating of the carbon fiber hull might have been exaggerated anyway, but it was rated at 4,000 feet. However, the viewport never was. The viewport was rated at 1,300 feet. But I'm sorry, if any part of your submersible is not rated at the correct depth, it will catastrophically fail.
Don't take it down there.
You can't just be like, so the window's going to be a little weird. Like, what do you think is going to happen?
What do you think is going to happen? If the window can't go further than that, then don't take it down there.
Yeah.
It's not that hard. It's not that complicated.
He's like, what's the worst that could happen?
So Lockridge lodged a whistleblower complaint with OSHA, the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, and Oceangate fired him and filed a lawsuit against him, claiming he violated the terms of his employment by sharing that information. They were like, you can't go to OSHA. You signed an NDA.
You
Baby, that's not how that works.
I don't think NDAs trump OSHA, you know?
I don't think
Trump
so either.
I think in that game of rock, paper, scissors, OSHA wins.
Yeah, this isn't like attorney-client privilege.
Right.
So rightfully so, Lockridge immediately filed a countersuit for unlawful termination, and they settled out of court. Stockton Rush really just wanted that carbon fiber hull. I think basically because he had a background in aerospace, and carbon fiber is mostly used in that field, in avionics.
It's like, I know what I like.
Yeah.
That's my metal. Some people are gold, some people are white gold,
silver,
some people are
whatever.
rose gold.
Yep.
Some people are carbon fiber.
Carbon fiber is his rose gold. Yeah. It was a very 2017 moment. And okay, so I think he liked it because he's want to be an astronaut guy, and also because it's a very lightweight and durable material. And again, he wants to sell these things to private companies and individuals, so he wants something that's going to be really lightweight to transport.
But
this thing you could put on the back of a semi and drive it around.
Do you want lightweight at the bottom of the ocean, or do you want heavy duty?
Right. I want something a little thicker. I want a thick something.
Military submarines are made out of titanium.
Okay.
I I don't know what Deep Sea Challenger was made out of, but I would be willing to bet it was like titanium and quartz. Like, somebody correct me if I'm wrong on that. If James Cameron found a way to make some kind of carbon composite work, whatever. Like, I trust what James Cameron knows about deep sea diving, because he knows more than like anybody on earth. I swear to God. He also got the input of like
Experts,
governments, experts in governments on this.
people who know
like,
what the fuck they're talking about.
he was not just like being a maverick on his own. Anyway,
Maverick.
it's my. We're sending up a lot of love to James Cameron in this episode.
You, James.
A lot of the info I got about the weaknesses of the construction of the vessel came from a video released while the submersible was still technically missing by a YouTube channel called Subbrief. And I'm going to link the YouTube video in the show notes for this so that people can go watch it. Subbrief is run by a guy called Aaron, who says he was a contractor serving aboard U.S. Navy submarines for 20 years. And his videos are just like really cool deep dives, pun intended, into subs and submarining. So in his video on the Titan, he brings up the fact that carbon fiber, when it fails, doesn't crack, it shatters.
Oh, good.
Yeah. So any failures in a carbon fiber construction are pretty much catastrophic failures. There is you have no time to fix the issue or to like resurface.
Yeah. You're dead before the issue, before you even know there is an issue, because it is so fast.
Like if you start noticing like
it's already done.
Cracks in the hull or whatever, like you should technically, like if it wasn't carbon fiber, you could start to like go back up and hopefully the pressure would lessen and maybe you could make it. But like shattering,
which is what they had planned to do. And it sounds like likely what they tried to start to do. So the Titan was equipped with acoustic sensors that would essentially automatically drop ballast and send the vessel back up to the surface when it detected the sounds of carbon fiber disintegrating. But again, like that is kind of hilarious. But again, like by the time the carbon fiber starts to disintegrate, it's too late. And that was a point that was also highlighted by David Lockridge in his complaint. He literally said by the time those acoustic sensors would go off, you would have milliseconds. And look what happened. Now, Titan has had several other manned expeditions to Titanic. Most of them were aborted partway down, but a few of them did make it and back up again. I don't know that the actual number that did is reported, but some did. And former passengers aboard Titan reported hearing the sounds of the carbon fiber straining and were told that it was normal. And I'm going to send you a link to a video that of what that sounds like.
Oh no. This is gonna be terrifying.
Yeah.
It's like it'd be like the fucking abyss again.
It's like a 2-minute video of what carbon fiber sounds like as it's breaking.
I do not care for this. I can't listen to that. That's so that the cracking.
I have to turn it down. It's freaking me out.
Like, yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it's like literally disturbing. Like it's like the sound in a movie when glass is slowly cracking, like in like a web. But there's something more like I don't know. I felt that in my bones a lot more. There's something very unsettling about it. Like not even in the context.
Imagine
of
you're
like,
in a vessel going down into the sea,
like just watching it.
Yeah, and you're just hearing the crackling around you as you're going down miles below the surface.
It's so freaky. I can't look away.
Yeah. It's unsettling anyway. And all of the comments under this YouTube video that's just like carbon fiber breaking ASMR are like other people who looked up what carbon fiber sounds like breaking and are like just talking about the Titan, just being like, imagine hearing this going down into the sea. One of the other issues Aaron from Subbrief brings up is the Logitech controller. Now, a lot of people were making fun of this at the time, but Aaron actually says that using a video game controller to operate an electric submersible is like fine. Like any controller will work, and video game controllers in particular are pretty easy for most people to use.
And they're sturdy. They're meant to be like whipped at the wall by angry young men.
Yeah, they are sturdy. It is just for like steering your electric vessel, so like it's fine. But the issue he brings up is the fact that it's wireless. Like you're putting
The wireless part,
you're putting so much faith in Bluetooth.
Well, also like,
Do you know how often I have to like resync shit that's wireless?
well,
Why
there's
would it be
delays.
wireless?
Also, Bluetooth, I know that they're like in a vessel, so it's not really like the same, but Bluetooth famously does not work through water.
It
Like,
can't be Bluetooth. That maybe it's some kind of other wireless. What other
Yeah.
kind of wireless is there?
all the modern, like, unless it was like like a wireless mouse
Yeah,
that has like a little dongle that you plug in. I guess it could be like that.
Dongle.
it didn't have a plug anywhere. It was literally a Logitech PlayStation 3 controller.
Wait, Logitech PlayStation 3?
Yeah, is a Logitech controller used for the PlayStation 3.
PlayStation
That little
3.
like white guy.
Yeah.
PlayStation 3 controller. Did PS3 have Bluetooth?
This is important
Yep.
information. So it was Bluetooth.
Get away.
Terrible, terrible idea.
Aaron also expresses surprise that Stockton Rush, an aerospace guy, would design a vessel in which passengers would be bolted inside, citing the Apollo 1 tragedy in which 3 astronauts perished during mission testing when an electrical fire broke out inside the cabin of their spacecraft. The hatch doors were unopenable from the inside, and it took crews 5 minutes to open them from the outside, at which point not only were all 3 astronauts dead, but 2 of them had melted to their seats.
Oh.
Yeah, it was really
It was
horrific.
horrible. Like,
yeah.
surprising no one. I went to space camp when I was a kid, and it was right up there at like NASA. It was next to NASA, so we like part of space camp was like doing a tour of NASA, and like they've got like memorials to them there, and it's so fucked up. The risks from electrical fires are famously much worse when you're in a vessel that you have to pump oxygen into.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Speaking of oxygen, Titan was, according to Oceangate's promotional materials, equipped with 96 hours of it. In his YouTube video, Aaron questions whether this number was theoretical or put through any actual testing. Like, did Stockton Rush put this thing in his driveway for 4 days and sit in it? Like, he also questions if there was any carbon dioxide or carbon monoxide capturing equipment aboard, because you could have 96 hours worth of oxygen,
Yeah.
but still die of carbon dioxide poisoning if you're breathing out.
Right, because it's not being filtered out.
You have
yeah,
to
yeah.
have like a balance of carbon dioxide and oxygen.
yeah.
So you remember how I asked you to put a pin in the whole like deep flight Challenger only being
No.
able to make one trip thing?
Yep. I
Okay.
do.
Yes.
That was due to the fatigue the incredible depths would place on the submersible's carbon epoxy hull. Titan's carbon fiber hull had also started to break down and weaken with fatigue during its initial testing phase from 2018 to 2019 and had to be replaced entirely in 2021. Like, Deep Flight Challenger's mission has been placed on an indefinite hold, whereas Titan kept running manned civilian expeditions down to Titanic, with Oceangate, I guess, just planning to replace the hull like every 3 years, like the head on an electric toothbrush or something. Like,
What the fuck?
But like the hull is the whole
Mhm.
thing.
yeah.
Like
and so that happened during its initial testing phase. Like, they tested it for a
Right, they
year,
tested-
and that was
yeah.
happening. Isn't that proof that your design doesn't work? If it's breaking down during the testing phase, you've tested it. It doesn't work. Go back to the drawing
Right.
board. Find another material.
have
Get
you
it
have you considered that a man said it's going to be fine?
And
Because you're not acting like you've considered that.
Like, they're putting a lot of fucking faith in being like, oh, it's fine, we'll just replace it every few years. Like, it's not like getting your oil changed.
Look, it's one thing when your car is making a weird noise and you just kind of listen to it for 6 months before you do anything about it. This is a vehicle that's going underwater at ridiculous pressures, and if anything goes wrong, everybody on that vessel's dead. In like
Let's
milliseconds.
not overreact,
So,
Mandy. What are the chances of that happening?
Well, guess what podcast you're on, Kaylin?
Hey, that's a great transition. Let's talk about the Titan's last voyage.
Yeah,
I really thought you were going to be like, let's talk about the podcast they recorded on the vessel.
Oh my God, can you imagine?
Well,
that'd be so fucked up if there was a podcast recording.
if they did record it, we wouldn't have
some
it.
kind of audio,
It would be, like the recording equipment would be
destroy
ash.
that in fire. Yeah.
The crew of the Titan were CEO Stockton Rush, probably acting as captain and tour guide, Paul Henry Nargeolet, one of the world's experts on Titanic, who really should have known better than to be there.
Right? What was he doing there, dude?
Less experienced divers than him turned down Stockton Rush's invitations to get on that carbon fiber death tube.
No,
like
we're not
literally
doing-
so many people turned him down, being like, I have some safety concerns about your vessel. But Nargeolet was probably also acting as a tour guide and pilot. Hamish Harding, a British businessman and adventurer who had also had a great deal of diving experience and had sort of been to space.
I know, right? That's not a profession anymore. Yeah.
He literally was, though. I don't think he did anything anymore other than did stuff like diving to.
I guess the ocean is like the place you adventure now, right? Like you're not adventuring on Earth, like on
So
he'd land.
He'd sort of been to space. He was one of the crew on Jeff Bezos's Blue Origin NS-21 suborbital flight, so like the near edge of space. And he'd been to the Challenger Deep in the Mariana Trench.
Okay.
And Shahzada Dawood, a British Pakistani businessman and philanthropist who, according to his family, had a deep interest in the Titanic, and tragically, his 19-year-old son, Suleiman.
Yeah.
The one person I actually do feel sorry for.
Yeah.
It's the son.
Suleiman's aunt would later claim that Suleiman was terrified and only went on the expedition to please his dad. The trip down to Titanic was on Father's Day. But Suleiman's mother contradicted that. She said that she actually gave up her seat on Titan for Suleiman because he wanted to go. Either way, it's unimaginably tragic for the family and for Suleiman.
No.
I can't imagine being his mom.
That's awful.
You were supposed to be on that vessel.
But
And
also, I can't imagine bringing your child on something like that.
Yeah. They're the only two who I feel like, because they have at least according to the stuff that I could find about them online, they don't have experience with diving and stuff. So I think they
just
really
trusted
didn't
them.
know. Yeah, they didn't know what they were getting into.
Yeah, they were like, I'm sorry, is this carbon fiber? I'm not getting on there.
Yeah, they just trust, the CEO's going, it's got to be safe.
Yeah, that's fair. Obviously, why would he go down with us if it wasn't? That's something I would say.
Same.
He's going, so obviously it's got to be okay.
Yeah. And I don't give a shit about anybody else involved, but that little baby didn't deserve to die.
No, he didn't.
In the first few days of the Oceangate Titan Reddit group, guys, I was on so much Reddit during this time.
You fucking sicko.
I know. I was one of the. I've only ever been a lurker. I've never been a poster, but I was one of the first people to follow the Oceangate Titan Reddit group. An anonymous throwaway account made a post titled "I knew Suleiman," and I'm just going to read it. It's short. Throwaway, as I wanted to make a tribute post to my friend. I met Suleiman at university as we went to some of the same societies, mainly Board Game Society and the Volleyball Club. He was an insanely kind and funny person, and I really enjoyed spending time with him. I cannot believe he is gone. I didn't know that he was on the sub until I saw it on the news, and I couldn't believe it. The last few days have been filled with hope that my friend would be found safe and sound. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. I will miss having him around, as will all of our friends. I wish all the best to his family and, of course, the families of the other people on board. I just wish I had one last opportunity to tell him just how much I appreciate him being there for me. I'm going to miss you, Suleiman.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yeah. It's really sad. And like he was in like the board game society.
really nice.
I know that killed that's
It's very sweet.
like everybody else was like, what about the revenue? Let's conquer the world. And he's like, I'm just gonna go see the Titanic with my dad for Father's Day.
His mom said that he took a Rubik's Cube with him because he took, there's videos of him online, Suleiman solving Rubik's Cubes in like 19 seconds. I think his fastest time was like 12 seconds. And he was going to try to, I guess, set a record for fastest solving of a Rubik's Cube at that kind of depth, like down at the Titanic.
He was just being a little nerd.
He was a little nerd.
A gorgeous little nerd.
He really looked like such a good kid, and he didn't deserve this to happen.
Nerd baby. Yeah.
An expedition down to Titanic and back in Titan lasted about 8 hours, with 3 to 4 hours being spent down at the wreck. Passengers had to sit on the floor like this. I'm going to send a picture.
Oh, I think I've seen this picture before.
Everybody's seen this picture, but let's just do this
as soon
again.
as I knew you were doing this, Hoots, I stopped looking at everything that came up about it.
Perfect.
Because I didn't want spoilers. So this will be probably the first time that I've seen this.
Okay. I'm going to send an actual picture of them sitting there.
Cozy.
No.
So cozy.
So small.
Yeah.
No, absolutely the fuck not.
In that, God, my back.
Sitting in that for 8 hours in that position.
No.
You could not wear shoes or strong perfumes because you're packed in there like that.
You couldn't even see anything.
There was one toilet, a unique feature for submersibles, which was separated from the main part of the hull by a privacy curtain and was located right in front of the viewport, which is very cocaine coated.
Yeah.
I'm going to send a an illustration of what the inside of it looked like, with the toilet and everything.
No.
Look at the little guy.
You got your little toilet next to the viewport.
You know, that must be quite the feeling, taking a shit while looking at that.
Is that actually what it looked like?
Yes. That's actually what it looked like. It's an illustration of it next to the
It's a piece of
picture.
shit.
Yeah, like a little pinched off poop.
It looks like a piece of shit. No, sorry. Like, I don't even, I guess technically, yes. But I mean, it looks like crap. Like, it looks like it was like thrown together last minute. I've made like more cohesive looking things in Blender. Like, what all these like pieces are hanging off, and there's like
yeah, it's not.
Oh my God. Even the hull.
If I
like,
saw that thing, I would definitely
where it
turn
attaches
around
on the side.
Like, nope.
I would not go 20 feet in this.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Like, Jesus, 22 feet long.
Yeah.
So that's like 3 me's laying down.
It's
Oh my God, that's
so
so
small.
It's so tiny. Like, really.
What the fuck?
Like.
And again, that shape.
Okay, being at the bottom of the sea is like fucking claustrophobic.
But in that.
Like,
even more
in
claustrophobic.
this,
yeah. And then that's that shape that Hoots was talking about earlier, how it's not a very structural sound shape.
Yeah. Like,
I've literally seen sandwiches bigger than this.
you cannot be like a bigger guy and take a trip down in this thing. You cannot be a bigger guy. Like this is for skinny short people.
Yeah, no.
Oh my God.
On June 16th, the expedition departed from St. John's, Newfoundland, aboard the research and expedition ship MV Polar Prince. The ship arrived at the dive site on June 17th. That night, Hamish Harding wrote on Facebook, "Due to the worst winter in Newfoundland in 40 years, this mission is likely to be the first and only crewed mission to the Titanic in 2023. A weather window has just opened up and we are going to attempt a dive tomorrow." The dive operation began on June 18th at 9:30 a.m. About an hour and a half into its descent, Titan lost communication with polar prints. Now, that was not an
Is that expected?
That was
Sorry, you're about to answer.
Now, that was not unusual for Titan. Apparently, losing comms at depths was just another one of those things that Oceangate would shrug at. In May of 2021, TV host Josh Gates and his camera operator did a test dive in Titan in Puget Sound, and their dive was aborted due to a number of technical issues, including the loss of comms and the onboard computers becoming non-operable.
Oh my God.
In subsequent dives, apparently the loss of comms at certain depths was just something that they told customers was normal. Josh Gates and his team were invited by Stockton Rush to take part in a Titanic dive in June of 2021, and they declined, citing safety concerns.
Yeah. Smart. Smart people.
Do you guys know who Josh Gates is?
No.
He specifically
Is that Bill's husband?
No, my parents are obsessed with Josh Gates. He specifically does like adventure TV hosting. Like he goes to like I think his place is one of his TV shows is called like Expedition Unknown or something. Like he's specifically an adventurer.
Okay.
And he was like,
okay,
you're not taking me down
about a lot of adventurers.
Yeah.
I did not realize this was a profession.
No, I didn't know either.
Very much so is. He's super cool. And he was like, there's no fucking way you're getting me back in that tin can. Sorry, carbon fiber can. The frequency of this loss of comms is probably why the crew of the Polar Prince waited 8 hours to report the Titan missing. The submersible.
The Polar Prince is such a gay little name.
I know, the little Polar Prince.
What should we call it? Like, I don't know. It's kind of a little prince, right? But
something that I can
going
list.
In the middle of February. Little Polar Prince.
Little Polar Prince. The submersible was expected to resurface at 4:30 p.m. and at 7:10 p.m. the U.S. Coast Guard was notified that it was missing.
Not them waiting an extra like 3.5 hours, which is like what? Like what percent? How many hours of oxygen do they have?
96. So they have 4 days.
Okay, so those 3 hours are like still pretty like 3 or 4 hours are still really significant.
And I mean, okay, so now there's like
unless they had already
there is like an investigation into the crew of the Polar Prince at this point because like yeah, they might have waited longer because there was a loss of comms, but there was also an immediate loss of navigation. And a loss of comms and navigation usually means a catastrophic event. And also, they had sonar equipment, so they probably heard the implosion. And maybe they didn't have the...
They were like, what's that?
Yeah, maybe they didn't have the expertise to know what they were seeing, or maybe they were kind of ignoring it and waiting to call the Coast Guard.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that part.
I don't know. They have been all interviewed now. I can't remember by who. I think maybe by the Canadian government.
It's like when somebody knocks on my door and I pretend I didn't hear it because I hope it's just somebody with a package and they'll leave it.
Yes,
and just
that.
Like, okay, we'll check. I'll check in like after I feel like they're gone. Except for in this case, like a bunch of men got turned into atoms.
Yeah, they like saw. They lost communication and saw a big spike on the sonar, but they were like, it's probably just like a
whale farting.
Yeah.
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 A U.S. Navy acoustic detection system detected an acoustic signature consistent with an implosion some hours after Titan submerged. And the Navy reviewed their acoustic data and passed the information about the possible implosion event to the Coast Guard. So this is like one of those things where like Navy saw a possible implosion, passed the info onto the Coast Guard. Like once they knew that there was a missing vessel, that they were like, I think we know what happened to it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because if you send something that's like, I don't know, like anomalous, but you're not aware.
You're
like,
not looking for it.
It sounds like a a carbon fiber submersible
Yeah.
exploded. That's what the radar looks like. And they're like, but there's only like a handful of these in the world, and why would you make it out of carbon fiber?
It's like
And
in the
then
shape of it.
Well, funny story.
On the sonar, you just see this little piece of shit like floating.
Yeah. I'm sure they weren't even looking for it, but then like once they heard that something was missing, they went back and
Yeah.
looked at the tape and was like, oh.
Oh, that makes
That's
sense.
what that was. Damn it.
I thought that was Steve.
Steve, the sonar trickster.
He's always going outside banging two pots and pans together underwater.
Just a
That
guy
little
and a little
scamp.
scuba deer. And then he swims away. Giggling to himself.
In spite of this, the Coast Guard proceeded with a search and rescue mission. They were told about the 96-hour oxygen supply, which would have expired on the morning of June 22nd. And the United States Coast Guard, United States Navy, and Canadian Coast Guard led the search and rescue efforts with assistance from the Royal Canadian Air Force and United States Air National Guard, a Royal Canadian Navy ship, and several commercial and research ships and remotely operated underwater vehicles. So like everyone was really coming together to save these rich guys. Now,
With no backup plan.
with no backup plan.
There, like, honestly, more concern and research was put into Mandy flying here to see us
Yeah, we
in
had
like
some backup
preparation
plans.
for her flight than like these men did. Like, she was watching YouTube videos.
I was like interviewing experts like Hoots and my friends who had traveled on planes before. I was doing so much research. I was reading articles and everything. And these guys,
And they're like, oh, it's got to be safe. The CEO
fine.
does
It's
it.
fine.
give me a submersible.
That
damn
would
it.
never
I
work
deserve
on
them more
Mandy.
than them.
Mandy would be like, I've heard of CEOs. They're the stupidest fucking people on earth.
Yeah.
In fact, I will not do anything they do.
If there is anything to learn from this episode, it is that. Like, do not listen to a CEO. They're all
Do not do
dumb.
They're all dumb. They don't know anything.
Not everybody listening has been on Twitter, but like we've all got like a front row seat to this lesson over the last like 6 months or whatever. But like, here's a second opinion on
Yeah.
how stupid CEOs are.
Here's just another little document to support your case here. Now, during this time, pretty much every civilian submarining expert at the time said that these motherfuckers imploded. But for that 4-day window, a lot of the world thought that there was a chance they could make it and that they were, somewhere lost and could be found alive.
Which is also terrifying.
Which is far more terrifying. I honestly think implosion was like the most humane way they could have gone.
Yeah.
But I just want to say for the record, they could not. It is literally easier to rescue people from space than it is to rescue them from the bottom of the ocean. The deepest rescue in history
Damn.
was the rescue of 2 men from the Pisces 3, which was a submersible that became partially flooded while laying telephone cables off the coast of Ireland in 1973. Both men aboard were rescued after 3 days with about 40 minutes of oxygen left.
Oh my God.
Jesus.
The story of the Pisces 3 is a miracle. Like, go look it up. It's so cool. But they were rescued from a
No,
depth.
you have to tell me about everything to do with submersibles. You're my submersible friend now.
Okay, I'll tell you off mic. But I will say
Okay.
in the book that one of the guys wrote about it, I forget his name, but in the book that one of the guys wrote about it, he said that there was like a pod of dolphins that were like hanging out with them for the whole 3 days that they were down there.
No.
And as soon as they
Just
got
waiting for
pulled
them to
up,
die.
yeah, I was like, it's either they're waiting to eat them or they're like concerned. But they were like chilling out
it's like,
there.
hey, buddies.
And he said they dispersed the second they got rescued,
Aw.
which is kind of cool.
Well, that's nice.
But
Nah, damn, dinner's not coming in, boys. Get out of here.
but the Pisces 3 was rescued from a depth of about 1,575 feet or 480 meters.
That's nothing.
Titanic rests at 12,500 feet or 3,080 meters.
No.
So if they hadn't imploded and were stuck somewhere near
how
the
would
Titanic,
they even have got them?
There are very few submersibles on Earth that can reach those depths. And of the ones that exist, most can really only use robotic arms to like cut a submersible loose. If it was like trapped on some light debris on the Titanic or something, they don't have the capability to tow another like possibly waterlogged ship to the surface. There's no way to rescue.
To like reach out and grab the ship. Like I'm like, what is this, like some sort of like gashapon or like one of those like claw machines?
We do
like
have
a big
robotic
like claw
arms.
would come out. Okay.
A lot.
But
that's
do
what
we
I was
have
saying.
robotic hands?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like if it was like caught in some light debris down there, robotic arms could cut it loose. Because that's
but to like grab a whole ass submersible and
they
lift it?
they can't lift it. They can't lift it. They can grab things, they can cut things, but they can't lift because we use unmanned submersibles to do things like laying cable nowadays.
As we should, yeah.
Yeah. Which is what like oil and mining companies use as well. They use unmanned submersibles. The reason Stockton Rush wanted to sell these manned submersibles to oil and gas companies is because a real human is better at problem solving in a moment when something goes wrong than like a computer. But
problem solve an implosion.
Yeah. But like that it's just the risk is so much higher when you're putting a real person down there than a clumsy fucking toaster. Like, so it's better to have the clumsy toaster. So
it's like the risk is you have to get a new toaster.
Yeah. Not like you can't get a new person.
No.
So yes, we do have submersibles that could have cut it if it was like caught on a bit of light debris or could have moved a bit of light debris, but there is nothing on Earth that could have dragged them back to the surface. Like if they were alive and they were down there, they were going to die.
And if they were alive and they were down there and the controller had died, whatever, like, you know what I mean? Like, that's what I was wondering. It's because even if that were the case and they had to bring them back up, they would have had to get them much earlier on and to be able to grab it. So like, there's one use case of like sending a submersible down and helping them. And it's only if they were like, if their shoelaces got like stuck on something or whatever.
Literally. It's like, only if they got caught on something and the vehicle was still usable, like was still in working order.
Oh my God.
The most tragic outcome, in my opinion, would have been if they hadn't imploded and had managed to resurface and were just bobbing somewhere on the Atlantic,
waves.
Like looking exactly like a whitecap, just slowly running out of air. That would have been the worst.
Yeah.
But they did implode, which honestly I think is the best case scenario.
Yeah.
I mean, not imploding and having a vehicle that works,
the 19-year-old,
everybody being fine would have been better. But like they were gonna die somehow, and it's way better to die like
instantly.
Yeah.
I mean, you die instantaneously in a case like that. There's no suffering. You're dead before you're even aware of what's happening to you.
You just wink out of existence.
Whereas with the slowly starving to death or losing oxygen is way worse.
Yeah. At 1:18 p.m. on June 22nd, hours after they were supposed to have run out of air, the U.S. Coast Guard's northeast sector announced that a debris field had been found near the wreck of the Titanic. And here is an image of a sonar map of the debris field and the Titanic.
Okay. Titan debris field, location, Titanic bow.
And I'm also going to send you a more detailed picture of the Titan debris field. So that first map that I sent is like how close it is to the Titanic. It's like 1,600 meters or something. And then now I'm going to send you a closer image of the Titan debris field.
Yo, is there still an iceberg around there?
I assume there's a lot of ice, probably less than in, 1912, but because of global warming.
Okay. The ghost of the Titanic is warming the planet to be like, fuck you fucking glaciers.
So the second image I hit, like you can zoom in on it and zoom in on the picture below of the Titan debris field, and you can like see the shape of the vessel down there.
Oh, yeah.
You can see it was like crunched in the middle like a fucking tin.
This
like
is
a can.
sonar looking at the ocean floor.
Yes. So the picture on the bottom is the Titan debris field, and the Titan looks like a soda can that you just like crushed with your hand. and there's like a whole bunch of
Oof.
debris around it.
Do we know what this
Yeah.
distance is?
I think I read that it was like 1,600 meters.
From the Titanic.
I can't remember if I put it in my notes. Yeah. Like if there was any fucking light down there, you could probably see the Titanic in the distance. Like,
Damn.
if there's a silver lining for the passengers and their families, it's that their deaths would have been swift. They wouldn't have even registered what was going on before they winked out of existence. According to Dave Corley, former U.S. nuclear submarine officer, when a submarine hull collapses, it moves inward at about 1,500 miles per hour or 2,414 kilometers per hour. And that's 2,200 feet or 671 meters per second. The time required for complete collapse is about 1 millisecond or 1,000th of a second. And the human brain responds instinctually to a stimulus at about 25 milliseconds. So they wouldn't have even registered what was happening.
Yeah.
When the hull collapses, the air auto ignites and an explosion follows the initial rapid implosion. So it just goes.
Why does it ignite?
That's a good question. I'm not sure I know. I would think it's maybe like the friction caused by the like all of the molecules moving very quickly, but I'm not sure. That's a question for a physicist.
That would make sense. Yeah. Yeah.
So as of the time of this recording, the U.S. Coast Guard has announced that they have found presumed human remains, but it probably isn't much. Probably just like some partially incinerated bone fragments because they would have burned up in seconds. But the U.S. Coast Guard did see that they did announce that they found presumed human remains, but they haven't stated what they are or what condition they're in. Now, there's a version of this story where it had just been Stockton Rush on his own, and he was like this crazy rich guy who just like spending his own money on building experimental submersibles, and his hobby killed him, where I think it almost would have been like kind of romantic.
Yeah.
Like, I don't have a problem with people dying doing what they love. I assume Harrison Ford will die crashing his plane one day because he loves crashing his plane. And having read a bit about the other passengers on the submersible, I assume that P.H. Nargeolet and Hamish Harding also probably expected to die on some adventure someday and had made peace with that fact.
Yeah.
Like, I think that is fine. If it had just been Stockton Rush, or even if it had just been those three men, there's a part of me that would have been like, well, they can go how they want to go. But
dying doing what you love is like, that's not a bad thing.
Yeah. What I cannot reconcile is the deaths of the two Dawood men.
Yeah.
As I said, Stockton had issued several invitations to various public figures and people in the field who declined on the basis of safety. Nargeolet and Harding probably knew the very real risks and were still willing, but this one dumb rich guy and his son did not. Neither did the passengers on previous missions. You sign a waiver saying that you might get injured or die, but you sign that waiver like doing just about anything these days. Like I've been skydiving, which is statistically one of the safest like things that you can do. It's certainly statistically safer than like getting in my car and driving every day.
You have to sign a waiver like that to get your nose pierced.
Yeah, you have to sign a waiver saying you might die doing almost anything. So I don't think that that's something that would really stress to someone who doesn't know what to look for, the very real risks of doing these dives, period, but also specifically doing these dives in that submersible. Yeah. And sadly, even if the implosion of the Titan dissuades people from deep sea tourism for a while, as the nascent industry of commercial space tourism starts to grow, I think we're going to see many similar incidents in the skies.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
One of the reasons the story of the Titanic remains so captivating to us, one of the reasons it feels, so much more melodramatic than other maritime tragedies, is because it's ultimately a story of hubris. It almost feels like a parable. Titanic's parent company, White Star Line, touted her as unsinkable, and was eager to prove that she was also the fastest ship, so the captain ignored warnings of an ice field. The ship was equipped with more lifeboats than was legally required, but still not enough to hold all of her passengers, and the ship lookouts weren't equipped with binoculars. And as a result, 1,500 people died. But despite the outrageous and irresponsible decisions that led to the Titanic disaster, there were many stories of incredible heroism displayed by some of the people who died that fateful night. So even though Titanic is a story of hubris, it's sort of a like romantic story of hubris. It's like a Shakespearean tragedy, you know? Titan is also a story of hubris, but a much stupider one.
But without the romance, completely without any romantic
It
elements
is
to
one
it.
that perfectly encapsulates, pardon my pun, the arrogance and greed of billionaire venture capitalists who desperately want to be respected as pioneers and experts, but aren't interested in investing either the work or the money into actually becoming experts in their chosen field. Rather, they repeatedly ignore the advice of real experts, choosing instead to cut corners and costs, ruining and sometimes ending several people's lives in the process. But normally their arrogance stops shy of actually getting themselves hurt or killed. But Stockton Rush was just a little more stupid than the likes of Elon Musk, and that is why he sealed himself up into a little pill and got swallowed by the ocean. Titanic was a tragedy, but the Titan is a dark comedy. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Respect the Dead. You can find us at _Respect the Dead on all platforms. You can find me at Punished Hoots on Twitter and at Hoots YouTube on YouTube. Kaylin.
I'm Kaylin Conrad on everything, and you probably won't spell it right, so just go to the description and click on it.
Yes, and you can find our editor, Davi Armanino, at daviarmanino.com. And if you don't want to remember all of that, scroll down to this description.
Bye.
Love you.